Caves were never just holes in the earth. They were thresholds to something older, darker, deeper. In myth and legend, certain creatures weren't just hidden underground. They were placed there to guard, to punish, to wait. From hellhounds to mountain serpents, here are 5 cave beasts said to guard the underworld. 5. Cerberus, hound of Hades. Let's start with the most famous. Of all the underworld creatures, Cerberus was the 3-headed dog that guarded the gates of hell. In Greek myth, when someone died, their soul would go through the underworld, and one of the final barriers was Cerberus. He ensured that those who entered could not come back out. And while he wasn't always nice to travelers passing through, he wasn't necessarily cruel either. If you wanted to get into hell, you just had to face your fate. But if you wanted to leave hell and return to the world of the living, well, Cerberus wouldn't let that happen without a fight. He was a fierce beast, but he wasn't unbeatable. And one hero in particular was eager to try. Hercules, who had many labors to his name, was tasked with capturing the beast as one of his labors. And according to some accounts, he did so with relative ease. Other accounts say it took him a long time and a lot of effort. Either way, the hero used magic to make sure he didn't come back, either by choking the dog with a special collar or shooting it with an arrow that put it to sleep. Either way, Cerberus, once the invincible guardian of hell, was now an addition to the collection of exotic animals that the hero kept around. That's a happy ending for a hero, less happy for everyone else. In mythology, Cerberus is mentioned over 100 times, and we have art depicting him on everything from pottery to coins to marble statues. There's no denying he made an impression on the ancient Greeks, even if he didn't keep his post for very long. 4. The Grootslang of the Richtersveld. Now we travel to South Africa, where the Grootslang supposedly lives in caves deep within the Richtersveld Mountains. There have been sightings of this strange serpent dating back centuries. It first appeared in writing in 1823, and there's been no shortage of people claiming to see one since then. The name itself means big snake in Afrikaans. And that's not much help in identifying what kind of creature we're talking about, especially when there are so many different kinds of snakes in South Africa. The Grootslang is supposedly responsible for many deaths in the area. It is said to be huge, with the largest specimens growing up to 18 meters in length. Imagine coming around a corner in a narrow cave and seeing a snake like that. No wonder people claim to turn tail and run. The Grootslang has also been called the cave snake, though whether that's part of its official name or a nickname is hard to say. In any case, it does live in caves. And if you want to hear the full story, you can check out our video about it. But suffice it to say, there is more than one reason to avoid South African caves. And if the Grootslang isn't enough for you, there are plenty of other dangerous creatures to watch out for. 3. The Alp-luachra, the eater from within. Irish folklore is filled with all kinds of creepy crawlies, leprechauns, banshees, the occasional giant, and even a dragon or two. But we're focusing on the Alp-luachra, which you may recognize from our video about Irish cave monsters. You can check that out right here. The Alp-luachra, also called the eater from within, lurks at the bottom of caves and lures unsuspecting victims to their doom. According to some tellings, the eater from within will whistle a beautiful tune, and anyone who hears it will feel compelled to find the source. What they don't know is that the music is meant to lure them to the creature so it can eat them. Other tellings say that the Alp-luachra doesn't really care if you find it. It will gladly eat you, but only after putting you to sleep with a sleeping draft. We'll leave the details for the other video, but just imagine going to sleep and never waking up again. Not exactly a great outcome if you were planning to visit the underworld anytime soon. The Alp-luachra is pretty vague. Even the Irish probably didn't know what this monster looked like, since it was described as being ugly. They knew it was real, though, and they respected it, because if you want to survive your trip through the underworld, you should probably respect the Alp-luachra. 2. The Yamata no Orochi, cave-dwelling serpent. If you've been following along, you might be noticing a pattern here. A lot of these underworld creatures are snakes. Maybe there's a reason we don't go spelunking too often. And that's especially true in Japan, where the Yamata no Orochi was a terrifying serpent with 8 heads and 8 tails. It was a child of the dragon god Susanoo, and the monster is mentioned in the Nihon Shoki, one of Japan's oldest texts. This is the same Susanoo who slew the 8-headed serpent Yamata no Orochi. You see, Susanoo was visiting his sister Amaterasu, who was the sun goddess, and she wasn't very happy to see him. He was a wild guy, and he tended to stir things up wherever he went. But he tried his best to make amends. And one of the ways he did this was by slaying the great serpent. While that sounds heroic, Susanoo actually had another motivation. See, the Yamata no Orochi was terrorizing the land, and nobody could stop it. So Susanoo volunteered to do the job himself. But if he defeated the monster, he'd receive a reward. And what was that reward? Its liver would become the basis for a divination system that Amaterasu would use to determine the fates of the first emperor of Japan and his descendants. So, family, business. In Japanese folklore, Susanoo was known as a storm god, and according to legend, his battles with the Yamata no Orochi caused earthquakes, typhoons, floods, anything that made farming difficult, which was a big problem in ancient Japan. By defeating the beast, Susanoo brought order to the land and peace to the people, and he was rewarded with the power to influence the future of Japan for generations to come. Talk about a major kaiju. 1. The Baku tunnel entity. For our last entry, let's talk about a modern urban legend. This story comes from Asia, specifically the Baku tunnels of Malaysia. The Baku Express runs from Singapore to Kuala Lumpur, and it travels through a series of tunnels carved out of solid rock. The tunnels are long and dark, and they can feel creepy even if you're not superstitious. After all, you're surrounded by tons of dirt, and if the ground collapses, you'll die. But it's not the ground you need to worry about. According to legend, there's a creature in the tunnels, a large humanoid with glowing red eyes that emerges from the walls to feast on unlucky passengers. Some have seen it lurking near the train tracks. Others swear it's haunted the train itself. And still others say it can sense fear and targets nervous travelers. It's unknown what this creature is or where it came from, but locals believe it has claimed at least 200 lives. People have reported hearing screams in the tunnels, but when police have investigated, they found nothing. If the Baku tunnel entity exists, it seems to be invisible to law enforcement. That's why many people simply avoid the train altogether. They'd rather take a longer, safer route than risk encountering this beast. And to be honest, who can blame them? If you could avoid a creepy tunnel monster, you would too. These legends remind us, when you enter the earth, you may not be alone. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, hit that subscribe button so you never miss an episode.